All right then. Hi everybody. Welcome. Discussing Tabletop. Tabletop is February 3rd, 2019. This is our 103rd episode. Me and Joe. And today, of course, we have a special guest with us. We have Evin Hodges of North Star Games.
Hi everyone. Hi. Happy 103rd episode, guys.
I know.
Thank you.
We just keep chucking them out. There's always talk about. Fortunately. So
yeah.
It's always good. So today's docket though we'll be talking with Evin about Evolution, the video game, and with North Star Digital doing, and then go into some regular topics with me and Joe, where we'll be talking about Magic the Gathering. There's a couple things going on with that are interesting to talk about. A couple of new Fluxxes have been announced as Fluxx's Looney Labs keeps doing a lot of the licensed Fluxx is very interesting. Wizkids is officially partnered with the Orville show for Products, which is kind of an interesting one also because they're also partnered with Star Trek. So, yeah. And then I want to finish up with talking about Odyssey of the Dragonlords, the RPG, where they've got a player's guide released by Modifius before the core book. So, we'll kind of dive into that. And of course, then our regular topics, our regular segments of deeper discussion, Kickstarter Corner, Our Week in Tabletop, and finally, Consulting the Table if you've got any questions for us. Let's dive, though, into talking with Evin.
Woohoo.
Yep. So, Evin, why don't we start with the basics, and why don't you tell us about Evolution of the video game, and how, I guess the easiest way to say is how it came about from the board game, and how you decided to make a video game version of it.
Sure. So, as you mentioned, I work for North Star. I specifically work for North Star Digital. And our lead game designer, Dominic Krapichetz, along with two Russian designers, initially designed Evolution, the board game. And that has been a big hit for us. It's spawned a whole line of products. We've got the climate expansion, the flight expansion, got Evolution the Beginning, which is one that's dinosaur themed and kind of aimed at a younger audience. And in the interest of expanding that brand, about 5 years ago, Dom and my boss, the head of digital, Scott, started talking about the possibility of doing a video game. And some of their motivating factors were that there are quite a few digital translations of video games, and both Dom and Scott kind of generally found them to be a little bit unsatisfying and a little bit not quite living up to their potential as far as what the digital format can do to enhance the video game as opposed to just being a literal translation of it. Mm-hmm. So, North Star Digital Studios was born as a subdivision of North Star Games. And we've been in development on this video game for almost 4 years, partly because this is our company's first ever video game. It's our first ever digital project. And partly because there was a lot to suss out as far as what we wanted to do with the video game and the capabilities we wanted to have and what we wanted to do to, like I said, enhance the experience as opposed to just being oh, you know the thing? You can play it on your computer now. So we did things like campaign mode, which as far as I know is a first for digital board games. We manipulated the environments and the deck a little bit for each campaign level to make it feel different. And we added some features like matchmaker or multiplayer to match you with people of the same skill level and things like that. So there was a long development process as far as what we could do to improve upon the game and take advantage of the digital format. And the game just released on February 12th, so 2 weeks ago, which was very exciting time, but a hell of a stressful process.
Yeah. I mean, if you've been working on it for 4 years and you're finally getting it out now, it's got to be here it is, the culmination.
Also, please no bugs. Please no bugs.
Oh, please don't.
as is par for the course, there certainly have been some bugs that we've been dealing with, but that's just what happens. Fortunately, the game has gotten very positive reviews. People have been overwhelmingly enjoying it very much, in spite of a few little issues that we've been running into. But thank goodness, like, everything went okay. Everything's fine.
I mean, it's like you're always going to find, especially seems nowadays because everything's so big, issues on the digital front of video games. It's just like, as long as it's not something that'll crush the entire...
As long as it's not game breaking.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course, even if you have a huge beta community, there's no way you can predict what's going to happen, and suddenly thousands and thousands more people are in the game. Sometimes, like, stuff crops up that you never could have predicted. So,
right.
But like I said, fortunately, on launch day there were some little hiccups, but overall, everyone is playing, everyone is having time. We're very relieved and very pleased that it turned out that way. So
good to hear that everything's okay at this point in time. So, now that the game is out, what further plans do you have in the future for... let's start with the evolution, the video game version of it.
Right. So we started this project with a Kickstarter campaign, and as part of the Kickstarter, the backers did hit the stretch goal of including the climate expansion, which is a very, very robust expansion. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the board game at all, but it adds a ton of game elements. It adds a climate slider that affects how different traits work. It adds new traits to the game. It modifies some of the rules of the game. So that is on the horizon for us. That was something that we had planned for quite a while now to do post-release, because it does change the game so significantly. It's essentially going to have different modes that you can play in, whether you're using climate or not. So that's going to be our next goal, besides the short-term kind of like bug fixes and things like that. Another short-term thing that we're going to do is add a pass and play, so that multiple people can play on the same device.
Okay.
And we're going to add asynchronous play, so that you can be in a game with specific other friends, and like you take your turn and then it waits like 24 hours for them to take a turn. So you can play like a long game with specific people as you have time. So those are additional game modes that we're adding in. Climate, we're hoping to have added into the game in the next several months is the objective. Okay. So yeah, we're going to continue adding to and improving and tweaking evolution for the foreseeable future. We have a notion of some other games we'd like to adapt into a digital format, but I can't really talk about those yet. We have to secure licensing and things like that, so I can't quite let the cat out of the bag.
So see, that was where I was going to go to next, is what else is your digital side of things going to go for. So that's good to hear. Now, another question I would have, which is an interesting one, because you are on a video game format in comparison to the card game format, is would you on the digital side plan for maybe some kind of expansion that would work for Evolution, the video game, that might not work for Evolution, the board game? Would you ever think about doing that in the future?
Yeah, that's something we're aware of. That's a potential that we're aware of. And like I mentioned, with the campaign mode, we explored doing that a little bit. We can do things like artificially create desert levels by manipulating how much food is available. So each card has a food value. And for the desert levels, we can specifically change the food value on each card to restrict the amount of food overall that's available in the environment. We can also make certain traits more or less common, and that's not something that you can do with the board game. You can't change the food value on the cards. You can't. I mean, you can like physically remove cards from the deck if you want to. That's a labor-intensive process. So we've already kind of started to explore things like that we can do easily with a digital game to like really change the flavor of the game without changing the rules. But yeah, that's definitely something that we can explore going forward. It's something we have to collaborate with the lead game designers on, because of course it's even people who design video games are not necessarily like gameplay designers as far as like the mechanics of board games. So we've got to have some planning meetings with Dom and with our other game designers to figure out what the best way to execute those new scenarios is without messing with the rules too much and breaking the game too much and making it unrecognizable.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's definitely a cool possibility that we can do with digital format, and something we have messed around with already.
Okay, yeah, you've experimented a little bit because you have your campaign mode, which I thought was one of the more interesting things I heard about that you did, because it's one of those things is recreating a board game in a digital format. It's a board game still, but like having something that a person can play on their own is actually really good to have, because then I could pick this up, play it, and not have to worry about having my friends around, regardless of the format of that we're playing in.
Yeah, it definitely drives more engagement, and also, me personally, I don't consider myself a really like high-level strategic player. When I play tabletop games, I like to sit with my friends and have a beer and have fun. Some people like really, really intense strategic play, but what I find is nice about the single-player modes, like you can play against several different AI personalities, or you can play the campaign. First thing I like about it is that I can do weird strategic experiments that real life people would judge me for. Like I can make weird dumb mistakes that I would be too self-conscious to do in real life. And also, typically in real life, I'm playing with the same group of people. Like my same group of friends are the people who are interested in evolution and who always want to come over and play evolution. But if you're playing against AI personalities that have different strategic objectives and have different ways of playing the game, you're exposed to different strategies that you wouldn't otherwise have had in your day-to-day life. So it not only is another form of entertainment as far as being able to play the game whenever you feel like it, but it does really help you to hone your skills and improve as you play the single-player modes.
Right, and then also, if you're not as familiar with the game, it gives you a chance to learn without, embarrassing yourself in front of, people you don't even know.
Yeah, the AI doesn't know. The AI doesn't judge you. Or if it does, I'm blissful in my ignorance. I'm just going to pretend the AI is not a living thing.
It's not judging. I am judging you, human. Don't worry, though. No one will know but me.
It's our little secret. Our little robot secret. I won't tell all your friends that you're terrible at evolution.
No, that's definitely something that has added to the interest in this kind of evolution of that's a good word for it, evolution of the video game board game, which I think you guys have taken a step to, because a lot of times nowadays it's very cut and dry. It's sort of like, it's what it is. The board game, digital format, just very simple. And I think that's why maybe that's the step we have to kind of almost take in a way for these, to make them a better thing, because as you say, and as I think we've talked about, you can't always sit down with everyone and play with them in the same room. You might not have time. And now
as you become more of an adult, you have other things and plans get in the way.
Yeah, you have to do adult thing. Just play board game.
And definitely the you said the other format you were working on, which is the God, I'm forgetting the word for it, and you mentioned it already. The one where I can take a turn. I have to wait for my friend to take a turn, but it doesn't matter how long I wait. It's like a day they can do it within. So
yeah.
We can
asynchronous play. Yep.
Asynchronous play. There you go. Yeah. My brain already tried to have it leave there.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I had to learn that word fairly recently too. So.
But no, yeah, asynchronous play sounds like also like a really great thing for this too, because that allows me to be able to be like, I can play with my friend, and we can just fit in the time as we can fit in the time. And
yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, that does happen. Adulting is a real shame, but
It's something that we all have to do a bunch of.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a shame not to include more options with the digital format. It is kind of a shame when you take a video game and just port it literally with no modifications to a digital format, because there is so much that a computer can do for you that you could never do in real life. Yeah. So that's part of the reason why we, even having never made a video game, decided to take this project on ourselves. We could have very easily licensed and outsourced it to companies that have made video games before, but as much of a challenge as it was for us, being a team that's less experienced with this, I do think we accomplished a lot in terms of avoiding the shortcomings that we could have easily fallen into. We kind of came at it with a fresh perspective, I think.
Yeah.
So, and there's good and bad to that. Like I said, it took us a long time to develop this game, and we certainly made some rookie mistakes that a more experienced studio might have avoided. But on the plus side, I do think we had a different perspective on what a digital board game could be, and we took advantage of a lot of things that I think are frequently missed.
Okay. Now, as you, a person that's in North Star, what's your experience in getting into all this? Were you more on the board game side, or were you more like a video game person that was brought into this entire thing?
So I've only worked for North Star for about 6 months, and I was in biotech before this.
Okay.
I'm in marketing, but I was working for a company that made medical software, and I have always been a board game enthusiast. I owned Evolution before I started to work for North Star, and so I saw a job listing, and I was like, you know what the heck, this could be something real interesting. And so the main draw was that I was familiar with the board game already, and I consider myself a board game hobbyist. I do play video games, and I have played quite a few video games, but I was pretty passionate about the board game, so that was my perspective coming into it. And like having marketed software before, of course, video games are a little bit different. It's a bit different animal.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of skills that I could apply to this situation. So yeah, that's how I got into this whole thing. Is I was really into the game Evolution, and
that's sometimes the best way to get it. That you like see something, you're like, ooh, opportunity, knock it, just dive on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, you folks at North Star had done the big Kickstarter of this, and were very successful. Now, for future projects, would you plan more Kickstarters, and is that the route you're going to take again, or do you feel you don't need them at this point for when you're doing maybe other projects if you can get them under work?
We plan to do Kickstarters into the foreseeable future, partly because it gets people really excited, and it gets people personally invested in the project in a way that they wouldn't be if they just heard it on a news site or something. There's definitely something powerful in people feeling like they personally made something happen. So we want to give people the opportunity to be personally involved in that way. It also helps us get beta testers who are enthusiastic about the game, because we can offer beta keys to unfamiliar or quote unquote unfriendly players from sources wherever. But we find that we get better feedback from people who supported us in the Kickstarter, and like I said, it builds excitement. It gets people really jazzed about the product we're producing. So we plan to do Kickstarter. We're doing a Kickstarter for Oceans, which is sort of the next iteration of the Evolution brand. It's a standalone game. That's a board game. And to kind of circle back to your question about our future plans, that may be something that we also explore the possibility of doing a digital version of, especially since we already have the foundation for Evolution, the base game, in a program. We have all the card logic and stuff designed. But yeah, Oceans is kickstarting next month, and people are already like very, very excited about it. It's fairly big news over in the board game world, and the Kickstarter is just another way for people to get involved and build hype and stuff.
And I think that's one of those things that, like, because me and Joe, we talk a lot about, you know, like, this product's getting kickstarted, this one's not, and it comes down to, I think hype is a good thing about the Kickstarter. You know, it's one of those things that I think we don't always remember when we're talking about it, but you're very true that is a good way to drum up, like, the groundswell of support for something.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it definitely has functioned as a place to give support to the little man too, but it has more than one use, you know.
Yeah, and we are still quite a small company. We only have, I think, even including digital, it's only like 21 or 22 people who work for this company. So the investment that we get from Kickstarter in terms of the fans contributing to the production is still very valuable for us. It's not that we're just throwing it out there because we don't need money, but we just want you to like it's definitely instrumental in the process of game development for us to have the Kickstarter excitement and the Kickstarter backers and all of that coming together to help make it possible and to aid in the development and design of the game.
Well, I mean, it's like when I see a company like yours doing Kickstarter, I can believe something. There's certain ones that, like, I think like Steve Jackson Games, when they throw one out there, I question that sometimes, but like you've brought me back a little bit to their use of it, just with that entire thing, that there is a goodness in Kickstarter more than just the
money that's raised.
The money that's raised.
Yeah. There's like people really like to be invested in products, and I mean that emotionally, not like literally monetarily invested. People enjoy feeling like they have some kind of ownership over something that they really, really love. So there's value in it from that perspective also.
Now, since you're up on your mobile, PC, and Mac, you said, and so mobile, are you both? God, I'm not remembering the iPhone's one.
iOS and Android.
Yes, I was like the Android. What's the other one? Oh my God, I have an Android, so it's sometimes hard for me to remember that.
The other one, Android, and the other one.
Android and the other one that I don't have, so I can't really dive into it. But but I'm not going to get into any kind of argument with that one. I just don't.
Android and the fruit.
And the fruit. But I was gonna say, like, for PC, now I haven't like asked about this, but are you just download on PC, or are you something up on like Steam or another like distribution platform like that?
Yeah, Steam is our current distribution platform.
Okay,
I found you guys on there.
Okay, good.
Yeah, we have plans to make it available on some other platforms, some other distribution platforms, like Congregate is one of them. We have talked about making it available on the Switch, but that requires some further development. It's definitely on our radar. Like we know that there are a lot of Switch users, and that the Switch games marketplace is not too oversaturated. Mm-hmm. So that's something that's definitely in our sights in the relatively short term.
The Switch game market has seemingly been very interested. As someone that's like does a lot of tabletop, but also kind of has an eye in the video game world for all that because of being on a streaming platform, I definitely can see how that would be a good place to look into, even if not for Evolution, but in the future too. Which I'm not even sure how one would get on there, so I'll leave you guys to that decision and stuff anyway.
Don't worry, we have real smart developers who are, can do all that computer stuff. I do know that it takes work to reformat it for different platforms like that. I know that it takes quite a bit more development work to make it functional. You can't just like take the files and slap them into the Switch marketplace.
Yes. There's compatibility issues.
And that's, I think that's one of those things that sometimes people forget. That's like, oh, can't you just port it over there? It requires a little work. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just like for a phone app compared to a computer.
Yeah.
Those are two completely different things.
Yeah, and there's even small differences between Android and iOS. We had to reformat it differently for different screen sizes and different resolutions, and for different. It's a whole thing, and people much cleverer than me know exactly what they're doing. So,
which is good to have. I mean, that's
Yeah.
one of those is you have. It's good to work with people that can take care of the problems. Joe, do you have any questions at the moment? Have you we kind of hit a lot of things right now.
Yeah, I think we've hit on a lot of it already.
Let's see here. Let me think if there's anything else. I think I've hit most of the topics I was thinking of kind of hitting here with you. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to particularly talk about at the moment? So, since you're here with us and we're talking about all this stuff, that's a good one.
Look, I gotta get the obligatory buy our game there. Hey,
I mean, that's a really
everybody,
good one.
everybody watching, buy our game.
Hey,
We love you, and we're a small studio, and we would love your support. So,
yes, please. A good support is definitely good. Joe, you saw them up on Steam. How much are you going for up on Steam? That's a good question.
the launch discount has ended. It is currently $14.99 on Steam and $9.99 on mobile. We plan to do some more promotions in the future. Around the time we release Climate, or we add Climate as a... I'm not exactly sure, to be honest with you, how we're going to integrate Climate, whether it's going to be a DLC or if it's going to be automatically added into the base game. We're still sussing that out exactly, but we're going to do some more promotions around that. But in the meantime, it's on Steam, it is on iOS, it is on Android. We plan to have it on more platforms in the future. Real excited about other potential outlets, like I said.
Yeah, no.
So.
And definitely that's a fine price. I mean, the fact is, like, when you full board game can be quite much more pricey, and so for something that's you can just either get on your computer or your phone for that price, that's really good. So
Also, you can try it on mobile for free. There's there's a few campaign levels, and you can do one multiplayer game a day with the free version, and then you purchase the full game inside the app. So also we're giving away 1,000 board games if you play a multiplayer game every day. If you play multiplayer, you're entered to win a copy of the board game. We've given away 100 already, and we've got 900 yet still to give away in drawings.
Cool.
So strong incentive to download that free version.
Yeah.
Counts even in the free version, which is awesome. You can play your one multiplayer game a day and get entered to win.
Nice. That's very nice. Yeah, that's a cool giveaway
Very
you guys got. You definitely have a very interesting a marketing push for this one too, because it's one of the things is like you can't compete with the big people who are throwing out commercials on something, and I never would expect anybody to do that kind of thing too.
Yeah, we did not have that kind of budget, guys.
As someone who looks into a lot of tabletop, it's sometimes hard to find out about a lot of tabletop because there's not a marketing budget unless you're a really big name, you know?
Yeah.
And even when you are, you still don't really see commercials on, like, Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. So...
A good word of mouth is the best thing for a lot of these type of things, and you guys are definitely putting yourselves out there and showing off a very solid game.
Thanks.
Yes.
We think it's impressive too. I mean, of course, it's our baby and biased, but you know.
We had a chance to watch some of it while we were at PAX South. Or PAX Unplugged. We didn't have a chance to try it yet ourselves, but I definitely think I might look into getting a copy of it now and trying it out just to see how things are.
Cool.
Yeah.
You might win the board game too.
Yes. We have tried the board game. We were able to try that. So that was so we at least knew what we were talking about once we tried the board game. It's sort of like, we should get familiar with this since we talked to you. Anyway.
Yeah, we haven't done any of the expansions on it yet, but we did the base game.
Mm-hmm. We'll have chances someday in the future.
Yeah.
Yes.
On the schedule. Anyway, I think I'm pretty good for questions for you. If you kind of want to give a final kind of shout out to the company or anything like that, I think I will throw the links to your to the North Star Games Digital, Twitch, and the Evolution game. I'm going to throw them up on the description when this goes up on YouTube, so people can link to those. I think I did the North Star in the Twitter release of this, so if people are looking for that one right away, you can go there and check it out. Make sure to check these things out. Check out the game. Definitely highly recommended from us here at the show. So, yes.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'll plug the Twitter. Our Twitter is at @NSG_digital, and our video game website is evolutionvideogame.com.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for joining us today, Evan. It's been fun talking to you and learning a little bit more about the Evolution video game kind of in this and kind of what you guys are working on in the future. Definitely would love to hear about more of your digital board games as you put them out.
We will definitely keep you in the loop. Thank you so much for having me on. It has been a pleasure.
Oh, no. It's fun.
Yeah, contact me anytime if you want to, if we do something interesting and you want to talk about it.
Sounds good. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
I will tune out. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. Let me readjust us because... Oh, wait. I got to get... Hey, nope. I had it for a second. There we go. It's not great. But you know what?
Adjusting on the fly.
It's fine. I've had to adjust on the fly before. Anyway, all right, why don't we move on, though, and continue our topics, though? And I'm going to start with one as I'm readjusting this. Magic the Gathering is no longer going to have an MSRP. So that's what we're going to talk about, a little bit of Magic. And this is a topic that I think is an interesting one, because it's no longer going to have a Magic product manufacturer or a product... Wait, it's manufacturer suggested retail price.
That's what I was just going to say.
Yeah. They're not having that anymore, and I'm kind of curious what this means for, well, Magic in general and the entire thing. Because I think, like, is this a response to what happened with the last of the Masters series, what was it, Ultimate Master? No, that's just God, my brain is. We were talking about it, remember?
Yes. God, I can't think of the proper name for it either.
Give me a second to finish setting this up, and then I can look that up very quickly.
Yeah.
It's like I want to set up the video very
Ultimate
quickly.
Masters?
It might have been Ultimate Masters.
Yeah, it came out last year, which that was very expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, it was Ultimate Masters, where it was much more expensive, so the MSRP was much higher, but it did not sell for its MSRP. Not in the slightest. Nowhere near that.
Right.
That's a kind of unusual thing about this. It's like they're saying that with War of the Spark, the new set that's going to be coming out in like a month or so, they're not going to have that. No suggested price, and they're basically claiming it's streamlined communications about new products, and that apparently that's not favored in other parts of the world. So they're trying not to mess with the global player base, which, in a way, I guess is fine because maybe Magic cards, for whatever reason, are more expensive. But again, it's like, if I was to put in dollars into a conversion rate, and that amount is how much you're selling it for it in, let's say, France, with euros, I can figure out how many euros it is, and if that's what it's selling for there, then isn't that equivalent?
Right.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Or if we assume it's maybe a little more expensive being in France, even though if it's a little more expensive, we knew the suggested price that it should be. Is this just like they're not going to suggest something? So I worry that maybe this means we can see whatever they want to charge about it too. You know?
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting what this ends up being. You know, is it going to be with no suggested price? Could it go up? Could it go up in stores, down in stores?
But the thing is, I think, like, it means that other places, because that's sort of like the suggested price, it means places could go cheaper too.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But it also could mean that since there's no suggested price, places could go up.
Yes, they could go both up and down. Well, the thing is, I don't see them going up too much. I think it become more it might become more competitive, and the problem is where it would go down might be in the big sellers, like the big retailers.
Where like Walmart and stuff might be able to start going, oh well, we're going to undersell everyone.
Yeah, and then the local game stores are going to be like, well, we're SOL because we can't afford that then. Because I mean, I've already heard tale that selling Magic cards is not an incredibly profitable thing. It's not bad, but it's not great either. You don't earn a lot of profit on it. Like, the secondary selling of cards market is probably a lot better than the selling of the actual cards. It is probably better for, like, a store to basically buy a couple of boxes to put on display, or, like, buy, like, maybe, like, a thing of boxes, put half of them on display, like, open a few of them, put the cards out, and the rares, they can probably sell for enough to make up for it.
Right.
Even the commons or uncommons, they might be able to sell some of them, depending on the prices of stuff. I don't know. It's just this odd thing about the entire stuff.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this means for the future.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things we'll have to wait and see.
That's the unfortunate thing, is, like, this can go a lot of different ways at the same time is the problem, too.
Right.
So, I just don't know what it's going to do. Definitely. Well, I guess this is a story that we're going to have to discuss in the future when we see more of the results of it. And it's going to be a little bit before we start seeing it, since I guess we have at least a month before the first product comes out that's under the umbrella of this. Yeah, so we'll have to play the wait and see game, and see what they end up doing with this. Definitely. All right, but then the other story, I did want to kind of go over the fact that they are Magic has continued to keep their lessons that they learned from previous years, at least seemingly. We are going to have another core set. They have announced it. We hadn't heard about it up until now, which is kind of a surprising thing, judging that we are on the cusp of the next set. It's like a month, might be like a month and a half before the next set comes out. And then it's what? June, July when we will see this core set? And we're late February when we're hearing about it? That's late in the game. So granted, it's just a core set, so it's not like they're needing to get any hype about it. It's the standard, But does this mean they were considering it and maybe hadn't decided yet or something? I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah, it does make me kind of wonder what the lack of announcements of longer ahead of time mean for it. Is it going to be more that we're looking towards a future with quicker turnover with Magic, of sort of like less anticipation? But it's just a core set, so it just might be because it's a core set. And of course, we are seeing yet another edition of Commander 2019, which the Commander sets have been a mixed bag. The earlier ones were much better than the latest ones, so this is another one that we're going to have to keep an eye out for to see if it's actually any good. Because those Commander things that they've put out have been hits or misses over the past couple of years, and it's another kind of worry about, like, what they're doing for their formats and their products.
Yes. Yeah, so we definitely have to see what's going to go on with that.
Yeah, I mean...
Magic's kind of been up in the air on what's going on with them.
Yes. The Ravnica sets have seemed interesting, which is great.
Yeah,
glad about
I've
that.
had fun playing online with those.
Yep. War of the Spark, I have no idea how to look at that one yet, because we haven't seen any cards from it. I really would like to see some cards from it and what direction they're taking with it to get an idea of, like, what this entire thing will mean, because it's out, as I said, like a month and a half. April, I think, is the full release. And we have only seen, like, a small promotion on it, and that's it.
Yeah.
And this is, like... I worry about their storyline stuff just because how they're going into it, and you know, it's just... I guess we'll talk about it more as we see more of it, you know. But that's another thing for another day, I guess. Let's keep going, though. We've kept it simple on the Magic stuff, but I really wanted to report on the MSRP going away, because that's the one that we should all take all of us Magic fans should take a hard look at and think about. Now,
yeah.
So, Looney Labs has announced a partnership with, I think they said, Cardinal Spin Master. They're bringing out a Marvel Fluxx, they did DC Fluxxes before, right?
Yes, I believe so.
And a Jumanji Fluxx. I'm... Like, the Marvel Fluxx...
And it looks like the original Jumanji, not the remake.
Yes. Well, it might be more based on, like, some of the other material about it, too. Because if you remember, there was, like, wasn't there an animated series of Jumanji 2 back in the day? I think there was.
Maybe.
I think there was, as I'm recalling, from my massive amounts of knowledge that I can remember. So, yeah. They're creating new licensed games through this new partnership. So, okay, great. Like, I don't mind Fluxx's licensed versions because they always try to do something interesting and different with them, just like they did a large collection of interesting and different versions of their own base game. They, like, everything, it's similar and played similar, but it's the little differences in, like, keeper special abilities or, you know, rules that are slightly different and things like that make all the Fluxxes quite different from each other. So that if I play a game of Space or Star Fluxx, it's different from, you know, Monty Python Fluxx, which is different from Base Fluxx, which is different than, you know, my Star Trek Fluxx.
Right.
And so, seeing that they're doing 2 new products, I'm definitely more... Like, the Marvel one, I'm going to guess it's probably going to be closer to the DC, like, in their kind of format of things. Fine. You know, just with Marvel characters. I'm curious as to what's going to go on with the Jumanji one, and, like, that one is the one I think interests me more out of these 2. Because what are they basing it on, as you were saying, and what kind of format is that taking?
Right. That's definitely an interesting one to do.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I think about it, and I can see ways of maybe doing it, but I don't know what's going to make it unique. And I think that's what it's going to need to be its own thing almost. It's going to need some kind of uniqueness, which I don't know what that could be off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, that one is such... That one's not a very obvious move like a lot of the other Fluxxes have been. It's like, okay, you know, it's going to be this.
Yeah.
I'm guessing maybe like they're creepers are obvious. Different obstacles that were from the movie. Keepers could be,
and as I said, they could take it. There's there is an actual board game of Jumanji that they sell now. There is
I think there was one that came out around the time of the original movie too.
Because if you look at what they're showing, it looks very. The box art looks very, definitely
I thought it looks more similar to the original from the box art,
and I think that's these are still work in progress box art that they're showing off a little bit of.
But it didn't look like the new movie or something.
It doesn't look like the original movie very much. So it looks like the original game that you could see in the original movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't know which. Maybe it's going to base it off of something in between, rather than going straight in the new movie, taking some of the old stuff along with being in the jungle rather than in the real world kind of thing. Idea of it. I don't know. It's an interesting license to have taken. That's for sure.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where they go with it.
Yeah, definitely. So we're definitely gonna have to see where they go next. Okay, so there apparently was a fantasy children's book in 1981 that was based on. So they could actually be focusing on the
original book.
The original book. Yeah.
True.
So that could be something that... Okay. I looked it up. There was an anime television series inspired by the film that ran for 3 seasons also.
I think I vaguely remember knowing about it. I don't think I've ever watched it.
That could have been based more on the book, too. Interesting. But... Yeah. So... Let's... Why don't we keep moving on? I mean, this today might be... I don't want to be necessarily shorter, but there wasn't a lot of great topics to hit on this week after we had our guest, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It is what it is, but
yeah. So now this is an interesting one. I guess people Orville, which you've referred to as a better sequel to the Star Treks than modern Star Treks, as of right now.
Yes.
The thing is, the Star Trek movie franchise, it's its own thing. It's a movie franchise. It has to be a movie. It's got to be a lot simpler.
Oh, it's also a rebooted version.
Yeah, I'm fine with whatever it does usually.
Yeah,
but the television series,
the reboots have been fine. The television series,
yes, I remember back in the day, had my complaints about Enterprise. Now I look back at it and I've been watching it again and I'm like, it's not so bad as I think it was the not my Trek kind of things. It wasn't Voyager, it wasn't DS9, it was something else.
Yeah, it wasn't bad looking back on it, but it had its issues.
Yes,
but at least it tried to stay in the original timeline.
Yes.
This one they're claiming is Prime, but isn't really, and the licensing's not under the Prime canon either.
So Discovery is just... It's its own thing almost, a little bit.
Discovery is a reboot, basically, of Star Trek on TV.
It's not even on TV.
It has more in common with the J.J. Abrams Star Trek than it does the Prime Star Trek.
Yes. Anyway... Orville has taken up that kind of original Star Trek feel a lot more, but being more comedy.
It has a lighter tone, but it still deals with some serious issues.
Mm-hmm.
And not just lighter tone, but, back to the original, kind of lighting.
Yeah.
And everything. That's not everything's dark and grimy. It's that's not Star Trek.
Yeah. So... Wizkids expanded its licensing. So they're starting out with, of course, they're talking about their miniatures and board games, and they're partnering with Orville, and I really didn't see that coming.
I think with how popular it has become, I think that's why.
So they're starting out with HeroClix figures, which is fine. They're starting with, like, miniatures, basically. And doing, like, I guess, a Orville version of a HeroClix question mark?
I guess. There's not a lot of information. Apparently, in the New York Toy Fair, they had a
sneak peek about the figures.
Sneak peek of the figures, so...
Yeah.
That, but...
This thing does pertain to, will we see different producting? Because they didn't just talk about their miniatures in their kind of announcement. They did talk about that they're also a board gaming group. So I feel like that they're announcing, like, oh, here's our miniatures line, here's what we can show off, but we are thinking about board games for this in the future, too. Oh, I should get that too much.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting. I definitely want to keep an eye on this, because I love the show. And I'd love to see, what they decide, what they decide to do with the property.
Yes.
As far as in the gaming community, because I don't know an obvious way for board game for it, but
it's definitely a product line that I'm curious more about, because again, it's like, I cannot say that the show, like, I enjoy the show too. It is a good show. But, like, there's so much network stuff that doesn't get anything out there. There's so much stuff on non-network television you do not see any products for. And I have never really heard the groundswell for Orville that much to, like, be like... I feel like it's more like, maybe there's more out there that people like it more than I think, because just because I haven't heard of it.
A lot of Star Trek fans have migrated over to it.
Okay.
That's the thing, is there is a huge... Because I think it was questionable if they were coming back for a second season. And because of the fan base, they brought it back.
Okay.
So I think there is a want for this. Especially considering, a lot of classic Star Trek fans have fell out of love with where Star Trek's going currently. And have picked up on this.
Yeah. Well,
But the thing is, it is still early in its conception, and there's not a lot of meat on the bone to really build gaming worlds off of. So it should be interesting to see what they end up doing, because there's not a lot of canonical stuff to go back to, considering we're only in the second season.
Yeah. So, alright. So, yeah. Interesting. We'll have to see more about this and what they're going to do with the license as it is. Good to see that Wizkids is always good at getting very interesting license groups. So, I mean, again, it's also like, they also have Star Trek too. So it's sort of like, it's a very odd one that they have Star Trek and the other Star Trek, but that's not Star Trek.
I think they have the rights to original Prime Star Trek, not the newer stuff. Yeah, that's under the other. Because there's. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, you have the Star Trek. What is it called? The one where you're basically Frankie businessman, effectively.
Oh yes, I can't think of the name of it, but yeah, you're running you're Quark, pretty much. So they have the license agreement for, because there's 2 licenses now for Star Trek. There's the original, and then everything basically before now, and the J.J. Abrams films, and now there's another one for the J.J. Abrams universe, and that's where also Star Trek Discovery comes under. So there are different licenses there. So they have the license to the original world, not the rebooted stuff.
Yeah.
So I could also see that's maybe why they're picking up Orville, because there's a lot of people who are classic fans have migrated that way. So maybe they want to expand their Star Trek kind of stuff by getting the Orville stuff and trying to keep that fan base happy.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of maybe going into a license with the other Star Trek stuff.
Yeah. So, it's interesting. Alright, let us move on, though, as we will see what else they do in the future, and, maybe we'll talk about their Hero Kicks line when they come out. Maybe. So, Modiphius releases a free Odyssey of the Dragonlords Player's Guide. Alright, that doesn't sound like a lot.
5th edition D&D.
Yeah. So it's a fantasy campaign of for the 5th edition of the World's Great. So the thing is, this is an interesting one, because first off, it's meant to be used with 5th edition D&D.
Yeah.
Okay. That's something that we haven't
I was
seen
surprised about that, too, because I would have thought it would have been something on their own, because they have other systems.
Yeah, they do. They have a lot of systems that they have, and this is like the first time that we've really seen... Well, maybe not the first time, but it's like the first one that I can point out that it's like, oh, hey, wait, this is to use with D&D.
Yeah, it's a very small book.
Yeah.
It's only 27 pages.
Well, the thing is...
Or 26 pages, actually, because the 27th is more just description of open world and blah, blah, blah.
The thing is, this is before their campaign book, because they actually are releasing a campaign book.
Okay.
Too. They have announced that they are going to be doing one to go along with this, which is... I mean... I find it interesting, because, like, we definitely see that Modiphius does a lot of the, the free starter guides and stuff. But this is a little different, though, too. Most of those starter guides are like, oh, hey, here's our new system. Check it out, kind of things. That's great. I enjoy that. I like, seeing what was going on, all that kind of stuff, and building it up. This is to something that it's a campaign book rather than a core book. So I don't really need player building stuff. What am I, it's like, what am I getting that's really that different with this that I would need a player's guide necessarily for a campaign? Because it's 5th edition.
They do add some stuff for classes that are unique to their world.
Yeah, which is good, like different,
like sorcerer, exalted satyr.
Yeah.
You are a satyr who is born with the gift of magic in your blood, ostracized from your own people, driven from their home.
Well, they might have like other races too, so like a satyr, you have stats for and stuff like that.
It seems to have kind of like the Greek-Roman mythos to it as well, and even the artwork is remnant to that, because I downloaded the book.
Yeah. Well, again, it's free.
Yeah.
So I think it's ancient Greek inspired, but it's supposed to be a fantasy setting. So it's rather than like medieval fantasy, which we have, it's like Greek-Roman fantasy kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, definitely, and it's a different take on the fantasy genre. We don't see a lot of like Greek and Roman as an inspiration for role-playing games, pretty much, period, at this point in time. It's very traditionally for fantasy going the route of medieval fantasy and very Tolkien and stuff like that. That has been established.
Actually, it's definitely Roman inspired, like Vulcan, the god of forges.
Mm-hmm.
That's Roman.
Yeah, class backstories, playable races, new paths for heroes. Those are very interesting things. Which I guess we're getting a taste of it, really, is what this is supposed to be. Again, it's like... Which is not bad, but again, I feel like...
I think it's a way to get hype on it of,
hey, it's hype, yeah.
Look at what this is what we're coming out with. Here's a taste of what the flavor is going to be for the actual purchase one. So here's something free to look at to get an idea of what you'd be buying.
All right, when you put it that way, it definitely makes more sense all of a sudden. Like, you're sort of like, hype. okay, maybe that's what they're going for. That definitely could be it. I wasn't even thinking about hype, you know?
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to mind. With they're coming out with a full thing of it. This is a sample to get the ideas of, okay, this is what we're going for.
Well, because yes, it does seem like they are adding some mechanically driven stuff to the game, to what they're doing, which is fine. And then they're also doing a very in-depth campaign world that they're building with this book, with the core book, or the campaign book, which they're planning on releasing, which is kind of what I was considering them doing, was like, the campaign book. It's the world they're building more than anything for that they're using 5th edition with. But it's also still like, yes, they don't have a lot of mechanics that they have to do. I guess this is a taste of things to come that they're trying to like get us our whistles wetted for it.
I'm very interested in this. I love Greek and Roman mythology, and I think this looks like it would be a really interesting setting to run.
Yeah, no, it definitely would be very interesting. It's one to look out for, and it's May that we're going to be seeing the book itself. So that's... I agree with you, it is one to look out for. To keep an eye out for.
Yeah, so, and the artwork is really cool, too.
Modiphius always does really great artwork.
Yeah. It's just, like, outstanding, though, the detail on it.
No, they do a very good job, and they've continued with this one, definitely, and showing off their stuff. I'm glad to see more of it.
Agreed.
Yep. Anyway, all right. So that's it for our topics for this week. Why don't we move on to our regular segments, as we always kind of do. And of course, let's start with our first of our regular segments that we have, which is our Deeper Discussion. I don't think we tried anything new out to Deeper Discuss, did we?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did? Did we? Oh my god.
We played, my brain just died on the name.
Mm-hmm.
And it's on the table behind. It's on the table, my table, and I'm trying to remember. I can't see it from here. Victorian Masterminds.
Oh, you are correct, and I guess we can give a kind of review on that one. Well, I will let you lead the way, since you're the one that went and purchased the game. We did talk about it on the show a little while ago.
Yeah, we did talk about it coming out. I saw it on my birthday weekend at our game store that we like to frequent, and couldn't resist. So picked it up. We finally got to try it last weekend. You play one of, 6, is it?
Something like 6, like
I think
destructive.
6. Yeah, mastermind.
Well,
and you have a vehicle. Yeah. Well,
our masterminds are very generic. We don't really have like a...
Well, your mastermind's your vehicle basically kind of tells you what your guy does.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's aquatic, there's land, there's air. And each one has different powers on their ships. And you send out minions to capture victory and buildings throughout the world. It did take us a little time to kind of get the gist of it. And we did miss a few things, like your engineers, which is one of the minions you have, actually automatically have special abilities that based on your ship or vehicle, however you want to say it, that we were not noticing right away.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very... Until you reach a certain point where you can... your henchmen are randomly drawn out of a pile. Everyone has the same types of henchmen, and the abilities, are the same across there, except for the engineer, which is based off what your ship does. But you can gain knowledge in the form of what was it called? The little book symbols, Da Vinci Codexes.
Yes.
which are worth 1 or 2 knowledge points. Once you have 5 codexes, you can start choosing out of your pile which person you want to lay down. Up to then, it's a little strategy, but also luck of what you draw. And you have no idea what other people are placing down in each major city.
Mm-hmm.
Once there's 3 henchmen in the city, you turn the tokens over, and the henchmen do their henchman things, which could be gathering parts, could be stopping someone else's special ability from going off, making your engineer's special ability go off.
Yeah.
Steal a building or finish a quest, which quests get you more points for winning at the end of the game. But so do buildings and getting more codexes, which also count as points at the end of the game. So I think we kind of muddled through the first one. I'd be interested to see the next time we play.
Yeah.
If it goes a little smoother. We also had a 3-person game. It is max 4, so it'd be interesting if we have a 4th.
Definitely.
If that, changes how things are. But overall, it was enjoyable. I think it's just we have to it's one of those games you have to play a time or two before you get a full understanding of.
Yes, I will definitely agree on that one. It's going to require us to dive into a little bit more before we really pick up everything on it. But, yep.
But overall, I think it was a good one.
Yep, Victorian Masterminds. We definitely had a good time with it. So it was as good as it looked.
Yes.
All right. Let's hit our Kickstarter corner. Do you have one for us today, Joe?
I unfortunately did not have time today to...
I will hit up one that I do have, that I do want to suggest out, just because I find it an interesting combination. There's another Red Dragon Inn up on Kickstarter.
Oh.
Red Dragon Inn Smorgasbox. And the thing is, they call it a little something for everyone. And the reason for that is, it's a lot of little things. They have a single character for Red Dragon Inn. It's the bars or the tavern chef. So she plays cards that are basically based on food recipes that she do. So her actions and sometimes cards are recipes she's preparing. So kind of interesting that way. Now, also added is some bonus cards for the Battle for Greyport, which is one of their 2 spin-offs from Red Dragon Inn, which is basically more of an adventure game, taking the characters from Red Dragon Inn and actually having them, go on a adventure kind of thing. So, Battle for Greyport, you got some cards for that. Then they are including a 90 card deck of Rogues and Warriors, the Gambling I'm In product. So it's out of print, and it's the actual card game of Gambling I'm In. That so every time you play you're playing the Red Dragon Inn and you do the Gambling I'm In, there's an actual game that they made to go along with that. So they're putting a copy of that within here. Plus they're doing if you're doing their Munchkin crossover, which is made to be more 2-player. Well, those are kind of almost that they're made to be played kind of as 2-player standalone. They are made more for that. I think you can play it with the normal, but they're kind of weird. And so they're adding in a 3rd-player kind of things with Auto, they called it. And a bunch of other things. There's some stuff that is from some of their other small expansions and stuff. The thing is, the box is just filled with a ridiculous amount of stuff. The Red Dragon Inn character, the Battle for Greyport character, Rogues and Warriors deck, the Auto factions, 5 promo drinks, 2 prize cards, gold coins and other tokens, players' mats, deck delvers, metal Lich King fingers, and rules to go along with it. And there's a collector's edition too that you can get in Blar. And you can get just the basic Kickstarter edition, the collector's edition. You get one that has a copy of the original game. Ha 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 ha. Loaf. It's a lot.
Sounds like you're getting a lot.
the thing is, it's a lot of little things, and I agree with that. It is definitely a smorgasbord, as they call it.
Smorgasbord.
Yes, I like it. So
I did find something too. So
okay, so that was funded. It's reached a lot more than its funding. It's got 26 days to go.
Not surprised with Red Dragon in.
Oh no. So check it out if you're interested in the smorgasbord. How about you, Joe? What did you find?
Okay, so with a quick look-see, I found a very odd one. It's a role-playing game that was funded in 8 hours. The goal was $500. They're at $4,604 and 23 days to go. Mm-hmm. And the name of it is Everyone is John.
Okay.
You are John, but you are not the only one. So the whole thing with this is you're a voice in an insane man's head.
Okay.
It's a fast and fun competitive role-playing game where each player assumes the identity inside the head of John, an insane man with no real identity of his own. John's actions, skills, knowledge, and goals change constantly with the voices that vie for control of him using their finite willpower. The confused adventures of John will follow the will of the voices, with each voice struggling to achieve their own obsessive goals before all willpower is gone and the game is over, with only one voice left as the victor. So it's a competitive role-playing game.
Yes. That's a very interesting one.
Okay, and it's apparently a new edition of a classic RPG created by Michael Sullivan.
So basically, he came out with one back in the in the indie RPG circuit back in the early 2000s, and now this is they're updating it for modern age. So I mean, that's good.
Yeah, and it looks like it'd be really interesting to be like, okay, who's gonna control this insane man, John?
Yep. For $5 support, you can get a PDF copy of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think, what is it, $10 or more, you can get a physical copy.
And for $20, you get the hardback, because they did unlock that in the stretch goals. So,
so
cool.
Like I said, it's a different type of role-playing game. And I'm like, I just got to see what this is. And saw that, and I'm like, this sounds interesting. You know, it seems like a very basic game.
Yeah.
But it's something you could probably just throw together as a one-shot when you have a bunch of people around.
No. Interesting. So Everyone is John the RPG. Check it out if you might be interested in a weird, interesting game.
Are you John?
No, I'm fortunately not John. Sorry. I know. So, we had a couple of weeks here, so we had some things to talk about. Let's go over the basics. Hey, let's see here. We did Victorian Masterminds the 1 week. Yep. And I think we didn't have something on Saturday the other week before. Sundays, we had I had a week where we had 2 times that I played Time Stories of Stella's Drive. We finished it off. We did a session on 2 Sundays ago, and then on that Tuesday evening, we all got together again and finished it off. Which is Stella Drive was interesting. I'm going to say it this way, I don't want to spoil too much about it, but the first half was better.
Okay.
Yeah. The first half was really fun, because it was it's a story set in 2 different time periods, and so you go to the 80s, which is kind of like this mystery, and then you go back to the 60s, to dive into the mystery that you were investigating, so that you're then part of that mystery, to stop some kind of weird time flux or something, that's between the 2 time periods. And the second one felt more like we had to keep repeating it over and over again, kind of we ended up well, we have to do this and then we have to do that. It's that kind of problem where you hit that, where then when you replay it, you just skip things because you're like, well, we can replay it at any time we want. Let's just replay it to get that. And then you look at, like, the first time through for all of them, and you're like, how would you get this? These points are ridiculous and impossible, kind of thing. You know, it's just, like, stupid.
Right. Well, I think some of them are designed to be played multiple times.
Yeah, they really are. And, like, it's like, we were looking at it, like, there's, like, almost physically no way you get through both time periods first time through. There shouldn't be. It's like the impossibilities are insane. But yet they list it on the card as, like, something normal. Anyway.
Now, did you guys remember all your...
No, we didn't use any of those.
So, see, that also makes a difference, too.
We were saying that at the end there when we were talking about it, is if we had had some of those from a previous one, we probably would have had some advantages that may have given us. Like, using the extra time, there was like a point in time where using the extra time would have made a big difference. There's a lot of luck, a lot of other things.
Right.
And then last week we did Betrayal at House on the Hill. And that was
we did.
That was actually, it was a really good game of it.
It was one that I didn't absolutely hate.
Well, I think that's the way good Betrayal should be, and unfortunately, you've had a lot...
Normally, I've had a lot of times of doing Betrayal and getting utterly screwed.
And I think that's the problem, is you've had some really bad luck with it. And this one, it wasn't really great luck either, but it wasn't so bad that you didn't, like, we didn't get through it, kind of thing.
Well, I like the fact that this one, there wasn't necessarily needed to be a betrayer with the hunt roll we got.
Yes.
We could have all ended up on the same team.
We didn't, but...
And even on different teams, everyone could still possibly win.
Yes.
Although the one person did choose to be on the team did get killed.
Yeah. And then on the role-playing game side, in Legacies of Kain, let's see here. They were exploring Dracula's castle, ran into some hunters, managed to beat the hunters, didn't kill them but captured them, kind of. Got into some trouble that they explored the castle they were in while trying to interrogate the mooks, which went awfully because they did not speak a lot of like Romanian, and they were mooks that were hired on from Romania, so sort of like they're trying to communicate with them, and it was not going quite well as they wanted.
Did they summon any badgers?
No. Unfortunately, we most likely won't have badger summoning, at least in the foreseeable future. That player has moved and currently doesn't have internet, and he doesn't know if when or if he's going to move again at this point in time. It's up in the air.
Gotcha.
So, poor Samuel was kidnapped. They don't know what happened to him. Oh, but they did find
his badgers stole them.
Yeah, they did find a new friend. They rescued a Ravnos elder that was in Topor in a hidden chamber to learn more about what was going on, and made friends with that one.
Because elders are fun.
Well, she follows the path of the night, like the path of chivalry, as a vampire path. So, as
she's
elders
not a
go,
dick.
Yeah, as elders go, she's probably the best one that they could have found ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
most elders will just kill you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. So that was fun. And we had a Madness of the Land this week where we were back.
Rufus returned!
Rufus returned, and Rufus had some adventures with some new folk.
And many facepalm moments.
On what could be called as a side story for now, but I don't know if it might take over the main story, at least for this point in time. We don't know. Many facepalm moments, but it's the sort of thing of, like, I have to go to each of them and go, like, you're insane. They're insane. You have to remember that. They've been living here their entire lives. They are quite crazy.
And Rufus is just like, why am I stuck with these people? He was totally just willing to just, like, let them not free them and just try to go off on his own, but he's like, it's probably best to have people.
It was just the perfect moment of, like, when you manage to break out, and then you're like, all right, everyone, back into the barn.
Oh, that whole first hour, that was pointless because we could have just...
I'm really happy about that. I'm really happy about that because it's so dumb. It's so bad.
If Rufus would have known she could do that, he'd have just been like, okay, I'm unhooking all the manacles. Rehooking them to us. Walk us out.
Yep, nope, it was great. It was great.
Instead of face planting into the dirt.
Yep. Nope, it was great.
And figuring out a decent way of getting out without being caught. And then it was just like, oh, that was all moot.
Yep. It was all moot.
And then also lucking into someone who is very nice. A very nice Kaladesh. Who took pity on us.
Nice is a nice way of saying it.
Not nice compared to the rest of them.
That's true.
He was the most kind one that we've ever met.
Yeah. It was more like he didn't get anything of, like, getting you guys in trouble.
Right. I understood there was still selfishness behind it, but he could have just been a dick and, like, waited till we got our stuff and then betrayed us.
That's true. But the chances of him actually, like, making getaway with your stuff were low then, and that's why he didn't do it.
I know. I'm just saying. We lucked out there that if we didn't have him, we probably would have been even more screwed.
Yeah.
We probably would have just been ended up caught again.
God. Oh my god. Yeah. You did not go for really great plans that entire time ever, really, it seemed like.
Well, it's also hard when it's like you don't know any... Like, you have three people who know each other very well, but are all kind of insane. The sane person doesn't know what the other ones can do.
Yep.
And it's just totally like, I don't know. At the worst case scenario, Rufus was like ready to just like let them be a distraction and go get his crap himself, find his crap himself, and get out of there.
Didn't need to, fortunately.
No,
you got to stay with your new friends.
That was Rufus's backup plan. Rufus was just like, I'm done with this. After the escape, he was just like, I don't even know why I'm bringing these people back to the castle, but sure, it's better than traveling completely alone, and I can use them as mushy shields.
So
Rufus is pretty much done.
Rufus has had a lot of stuff going on.
He's seen way too much.
I've seen way too much, man. I've seen way too much. Ugh.
He just wants to get back to the end, get his drink on, and raise some little, some giant praying mantis babies.
Anyway, so that was our week in tabletop, and then consult the table, which is the exciting segment where if you have any questions for us, you can let us know. So, if you have any questions, you can leave it here on our right here in our chat for Twitch, in the discussion below on YouTube, in the comments. You can send it to us on either of our Twitters, on my Discord, or even if you wanted to, you could email us at discussingtabletop@yahoo.com. All our ways of reaching us and sending us your nerdy/tabletop question that you want to share with us and have us answer here on the show. Or if it's one that's more appropriate for us to just answer right then and there, we will. You know, whichever happens. So, Anyway, thanks for joining us today. It was a fun one. Thanks once again to our guest for showing up. Evin was great to talk to. It was a great time having him and having a nice discussion with him about Evolution, the digital video game version of it.
Agreed, and I'm definitely going to try at least the mobile free version and test it out.
Yeah, test it out, see how we like it, and see kind of dive deep into it.
And cross your fingers for a free version of the board game.
Yes.
Since they're doing that giveaway.
That's true. Anyway, thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week. Maybe with a guest, maybe not. We'll find out. At least the two of us will be back next week for more Discussing Tabletop.
And see everyone tomorrow.
Yep. So, bye, folks.
Bye.